Instagram videos of me working out. And I posted on there, I wrote a little note on there that said that I am addicted to the pain of the stair climber. And it's the only pain I'm willing to be addicted to anymore. And I didn't even plan to write that. It just kind of came out of me. And I was like, oh, I really am addicted to the pain.
Hello, my loves. This is Johanna Burkhardt. I am a multidimensional channel, teacher, healer, and author. And I am obsessed with all things metaphysical, esoteric, galactic, and of course, the healing journey. And I'm here to share my stories, my wisdom, and my teachings about being human in the illusion that we call reality. Welcome to Cosmic Blonde.
Hello, my loves. I have been going through my journals, and I have been keeping a journal since probably about 2016 and documenting my meditations, my shamanic journeys, my healing journey, things going on in my life, all the things. And I've really been looking for very particular, specific things that I wanted to share on my podcast this season. Most of them metaphysical or shamanic based, because a lot of those experiences, I don't remember everything about them. A lot of times when things are channeled or you take these journeys, you don't retain, you retain the, the takeaway from it, how powerful it was, but you don't always retain the particulars. And so every time I would do one of these experiences, I would journal them in detail. So anyway, I've been on the search for some of these experiences to share on my podcast. And I came upon something today that I thought, you know what, let's talk about this, because I think a lot of people right now are in pain. They're going through pain, whether it be emotional turmoil. It's been interesting to watch. I've seen so many people with their lives are falling apart right now. Like literally their lives are falling apart. Maybe they're running out of money. Maybe they've had a career change, a move across country. I've seen so many people super sick, and not just because it's quote unquote flu season or cold season. I really don't buy into that. I have guides have given me a different perspective on cold and flu season. But just like a lot of people are suffering right now or experiencing pain. And so when I found this entry on pain, and then a couple of days ago, I posted a story on pain, I thought, you know what, let's talk about this. Let's talk about the power of pain. So a couple of days ago, I was working out, and for those who follow me on social media, I usually post this on my personal. I usually post my workout stories on my personal Facebook page and Instagram more than I do my professional one. But I usually take a short little video of myself working out on the stair climber or the treadmill or whatever machine I'm on, and say a little blurb. One, because I'm really proud of myself and my consistency and what it's done for me. And two, in hopes that it might inspire someone to work out too. And not because we need to look good. I mean, looking good is a perk of working out. Being tone or fit or, reaching a weight goal, that is a perk of working out. I don't do it for that. It's just the icing on the cake for me. About a year ago, maybe a little longer, I started my workout journey. And actually, I think it was, I started in 2020, and then I took a break for quite a while from the gym. I did work out, but I did other things. But I believe it was October of 22, I got a gym membership again and started working out on a regular basis. And it changed so much for me. But the reason why I did it was for my mental health and to manage my energy. Because as someone like me, I'm a vessel. I channel energy, I anchor light. And so energy is constantly moving through me from the cosmos into earth. and I need to be a clean vessel. I need to keep the energy moving through. So I drink a lot of water, not because I'm thirsty or dehydrated, but because it's a conductor. I work out. I do things that will help move the energy. It's just a energy management tool for me. So those were the two main reasons why I started working out. But a couple of days ago, I posted one of my little Instagram videos of me working out. And I posted on there, I wrote a little note on there that said that I am addicted to the pain of the stair climber. And it's the only pain I'm willing to be addicted to anymore. And I didn't even plan to write that. It just kind of came out of me. And I was like, oh, I really am addicted to the pain. Like there are plenty of days where I don't want to work out. And there's plenty of days when I start working out and I'm like, this is so hard and this is so painful. And it is at times. But there is a ridiculous dopamine reward when you push through that pain and get to the other side and you feel euphoric. And so in a way, I am addicted to it. And there's multiple reasons why, because of just what I just said, right? It is an opportunity for me to practice befriending my pain and being okay with that pain and discomfort. Because I know that once, like I know that the more intense it gets, the closer I am to the peak of that mountain. And as soon as I hit the crest of that mountain, it's like, here comes the euphoria, and you go right down that hill, and it feels so blissful. But it trains my mind and it trains my body to know that we can do hard things and that it is safe to be with our pain. And what that means is you're not distracting yourself from your pain. And I'll catch myself every now and then in the gym, on the treadmill, especially when I'm on the treadmill. I can't do it when I'm on the stair climber, but on the treadmill, I'll catch myself every now and then in a fit of in the midst of intense pain, because I usually work out at an 8 to 10 incline at a certain speed, so it's not an easy thing to do. But I've noticed that every now and then I'll see myself on my phone and I'll start to scroll or something. And that's a distraction. It's distracting me, my mind, from my pain. But there is immense power in being able to be with your pain, to sit with your pain, to walk with your pain, to not let your pain be something that holds you back. Suffering comes when we fight with our pain. And our strength comes when we're able to use our pain, utilize our pain. Pain is power. And we can allow it to be something that motivates us. It can be something that we allow to strengthen us. And when I talk about being addicted to pain, it's important to understand that there are many reasons why we chose to come to Earth, right? This is a very pivotal time on Earth. It's a very powerful time on Earth. We do have lessons that we chose to learn. We do have missions that we chose to step into. There are things, right? There's multiple reasons why we're here. But if we take all of those away, the reason why us souls are almost addicted to coming back to Earth and reincarnating and saying, yes, I want to go again. Oh, I want to go again. This is legit, you guys. This is like our Disneyland. And it's crazy to think that, because it's like there's pain and there's suffering and there's war and there's poverty and there's all these terrible things that can happen. But there's so much beauty too. But here's the thing that I'm trying to get to. When we are in our etheric bodies, there is a much narrower bandwidth of feeling. We don't feel in our etheric bodies the way that we feel in a human body. It's generally a very balanced feeling. There is no extreme highs and extreme lows. There's no depth. It's all inclusive. It's very balanced. It's very peaceful. There isn't any extremes. But when we come to a place like Earth, we have depth and we have duality. So we have really high highs and really low lows, and we get addicted to both, to be honest. We get addicted to the cycle. And if you look at a heartbeat, I mean, everything is a mirror. Everything is always trying to show us. The heartbeat shows the pattern, right? The Schumann resonance shows the pattern. There's so many things that shows the pattern of duality, of ups and downs, and us being able to find our balance, which is that space between our ability to flow without suffering, to experience from a very detached place and just go on the roller coaster ride, right? Not hold on for dear life and then suffer. But for a lot of us, the only way we know how to feel is to have pain. Sometimes that's emotional pain, sometimes that's mental pain, sometimes that's physical pain. I know for me, for most of my life, I pushed down and resisted and buried or tried to numb my mental and emotional pain, which just compacts it into the body until one day it was so full that now my body was screaming at me in pain because I was no longer listening to the fact that I needed to face my emotions and I needed to face the stories in my mind. I needed to get balanced. I needed to acknowledge these things. I needed to not be afraid of these things. And when the body starts screaming at you, you have long stopped listening because it's trying to get your attention. When you're not listening, it's going to start attacking your body because it's like, hey, we're going to make the pain more visceral. We're going to make the pain more intense so that you will listen to what we're trying to tell you, what your emotions are trying to tell you. This is the most important thing. So I had no choice when I hit burnout, when I hit adrenal fatigue in 2019, when I hit the peak of my adrenal fatigue in 2019, I was stuck in bed. I was wired and tired, so I couldn't sleep, but I really wanted to sleep. And it took me hours to get out of bed. I moved so slow. I wasn't working a lot. And when you are faced and forced to just lay down and not move, you have no choice but to really look at your pain, to really face your emotions and the things that you weren't doing before. And so it's one of those things like my mom pulled her back out. I don't remember when this was. I think it was some years back, but my mom pulled her back out and she was literally forced to lay on the floor and do nothing all day. And she shared with me that she really had to face some things that she had been avoiding because she had nothing. Literally, she couldn't escape it. She couldn't distract herself from it. She had no other choice but to sit there and process through and go through these things, right? And so we never really want to get to that level where we're forced to be in bed or in a hospital or faced in a position where now you have no other choice but to face the shit that's coming up for you. You can't drink it away. You can't eat it away. You can't scroll it away. You can't do anything. You have to sit there. And oftentimes when we have big accidents, when we have major illnesses, when we have major things that force us to stop and not move, it's because we have not been facing the things that we need to. I say this because whatever you're going through, you're going to find power in your ability to hold and sit with, befriend your pain, whether that is emotional, physical, or mental anguish. And not to beat yourself up about it, not to attach to it, not to identify with it, but just to look at it, to observe it, to face it and say, I see you. And to feel it. Like at the end of the day, I've said this a million times. There's a million other spiritual people out there that have said similar things. All we are ever required to do is to feel it, to heal it. You feel it, and then you feel it some more, and then you feel it some more, and you feel it some more. That's all we ever have to do. And when you're not wanting to feel it and you're in avoidance of it, you're only compacting it. You're only making it bigger. You're only making it stronger. You're only making it more intense, so that when you do face it, it's like overwhelming and sometimes too much. And sometimes we break. So as I was going through my journal, as I started to this episode talking about, I found this entry from January of 21. And in 2020, I asked for a divorce. I left my husband. And August of 2020, I moved into my own place. And for the first time in my entire life, no joke, I lived by myself. I've never lived by myself. I went from raising my brother and sister to having my own babies. And I mean, I've had times where my kids weren't home for periods of time, but I've never lived by myself. This was the first time. I had no one to take care of. I had only a cat who let's be honest, cats own you. They rule the roost. So they don't need somebody other than to, feed them basically. I had more time on my hands than I've ever had in my entire life. And it was also one of the most painful times in my life, because I had nothing else to do but face all of the emotional pain, mental anguish, and physical pain that I had not been dealing with. And in 2020 is when I started healing my adrenal fatigue. And so I spent most of 2020 and most of 2021 barely working. Still was able to support myself, but I was barely working. I did a lot of laying around. I did a lot of like light walking, light bike riding, a little bit of Kundalini yoga. I couldn't really work out. One of the things with adrenal fatigue, especially when it gets to stage 3, like I had, you can't work out. You definitely can't lift weights. You can do light walks, you can do light yoga, stretching, but it all has to be gentle. There's more to that, but this is not what this episode is about. But I had no other choice. And so I discovered a lot of, this is when parts work was really huge for me, because I had nothing else to do but to face myself. And I found all of these aspects of myself, and I faced them. And I went through so many ego deaths, and I went through so many inner child integrations, and I went through all of these wild, crazy experiences. And I had all of these beautiful beings and goddesses and deities and different people coming to me and taking me on these wild shamanic journeys in my meditation. And I'd having these wild, miraculous healing experiences. Like, it was a very wild, magical, painful, emotional ride for a few years. So anyway, back to this entry. January 24th, 21. This is what the entry says. I wanted to channel my pain, to understand why I am experiencing so much of it. And I'm going to stop there for a second, because in a lot of my courses, I talk about, there's a hack for feeling our emotions. And I kind of want to talk about it for a second here, because I think it will help people. We are often afraid to feel our emotions, right? We get into resistance of our emotions, and then we end up pushing it into our bones, which is exactly what we don't want, because it causes disease, right? Disease and pain and back problems and hip problems and all the things. Arthritis, you name it. And we oftentimes, when we do start feeling our emotions, we can oftentimes refer to the emotional scale. And listen, there's something wrong with that, but I think sometimes it's not the best thing to do. because we can label shame and guilt and anger, and we don't want to feel these things, or we have beliefs around these things that of how bad it is to feel shame or guilt, or it's not healthy to feel anger. And so when we labeling our emotions, it can sometimes be more detrimental than it can be helpful. And so and you have to feel it. So that means you have to like lean into the emotion. Even when you have physical pain, when we resist the physical pain, we actually make it more intense. But if you accept the pain, it's actually less intense. Now, on a side note, I had a really interesting experience with Sananga. Ashley and I, my friend Ashley and I, we did combo, the frog medicine. And part of that journey, they put we did Sananga, which is these eye drops. And our whole purpose behind this was grace through suffering. Meaning, if you can have grace for yourself, if you can love yourself through it, if you can accept it, if you can accept the pain and not fight with it, the pain lessens. So the pain only, these drops, you put one drop in each eye. They put one drop in each eye. You're laying down. And I remember she put them in my eyes, and I flung straight up because it felt like somebody had just stabbed my eyeballs with a needle, like a big one. And I was like, oh my God. And then I heard grace, grace through suffering, grace through suffering. And I just started to physically relax my body and go, okay, this is just going to hurt. And it still hurt, but it didn't hurt like half the pain went away. Half the pain went away in seconds, the moment I accepted the pain. And that was the experience that taught me that no matter how bad the headache is, no matter how bad the pain in my back is, the pain in my body is, if I fight with it, if I resist feeling it, it's only going to make it worse. If I just accept, okay, this is what it is, it's not going to feel good, but I'll get through it, the pain subsides because it's no longer a focus thing, and what you focus on expands, right? Well, the same thing goes with emotional pain. If we resist feeling the rejection, the abandonment, if we resist feeling the heartbreak, if we resist feeling the grief, if we resist feeling the anger, it just compounds and compounds and compounds until it can't take it anymore. And then it erupts, and something in your life breaks, you have a tower moment, something in your body goes wrong, you have a disease, get an accident, the energy has to break. Your body can only hold so much before something's going to break. And so I taught people, and I did this in a few of my courses, where I said, you have to focus on the sensations as if you were a child. So let's just say you have a 3-year-old child, and they come to you and they say, Mommy or Daddy, my tummy hurts. And you need to know, well, what kind of hurt is it? There's lots of different meanings behind a stomach ache. And I remember when I used to ask my son this, and he used to say, it's beeping. And that was kind of like, it was a repetitive, sharp pain, and he called it beeping. And so I would ask him for more sensations. And this is where this teaching came from, by the way, was working with my own kids, especially my son, because I was not very self-aware with my daughter, but I was way more self-aware with my son. And so I learned that children can express sensations more than they can explain what's actually happening. Well, most of our emotional pain comes from our inner children. It comes from our trauma that's been stored from our childhood. So when we're trying to feel an emotional pain, oftentimes we can't articulate what it is, or where it's even, sometimes we know where it comes from, but most of the time we can't articulate what it is. And because the version of us that shows up with that emotional pain has a lower emotional intelligence than, say, the more conscious version of you. And because we are multidimensional and we have different aspects of self, we have an inner child collective, right? And that could be you yesterday to the you at 5 years old. And all of those versions of you have different levels of emotional intelligence, but they all can describe sensations. And so it's kind of a hack. So instead of going like, oh, I feel shame or I feel anger, you can say, I feel a tightness in my chest and it kind of burns and it moves slow. Or, you know, it moves fast and it's cold and it's hard and it's like going into it. You have to go deeper and deeper and deeper into the sensation and give more. Like you have to explain it in depth, like you're explaining it to a doctor or you're explaining it to your mother. And so it's a hack to literally go in, lean in, and just stop trying to describe what it is and get curious about what it feels like and explore it, dig into it, and start labeling all the sensations. Before you know it, you've kind of tunneled your way through that emotion and you've allowed yourself to feel it. You felt it, you felt it. Let's speak proper English. You felt it, but you weren't so focused on the feeling of it. You were more in observation mode. You were exploring it. And it's not a distraction because when you're feeling it, oftentimes you're attached to it. This means something about me. I'm angry. It means something about me. I feel shame. It means something about me. But when you're in observation mode, you're not identifying with it. You're detached from it and you're exploring it from a space of curiosity. So it's not as intense and it doesn't hold as much meaning and you're able to get through it much easier. Okay. I felt like I really needed to bring that piece in. So let me get back to the journal entry. I immediately saw myself. So this is me channeling my pain. And this, I have done this multiple times, but I'm going to say if you have someone who has chronic pain or you have pain in your body or you have a lot of emotional pain, whatever it is, learning to channel your pain, game changer. So this is me channeling my pain. I immediately saw myself locked in a concrete box and electricity was coming out of my hands. I was constantly trying to break out of the box. Pain is powerful. It can control the most controlled. And that's an interesting statement. Pain can control the most controlled. We think that by being in control, we can manage our pain, we can manage our stress, we can manage our environment, we can manage who comes into it. But control is rooted in fear because you're trying to control your environment in order to avoid feeling pain and discomfort, an avoidance of being triggered, and to feel safe. And oftentimes, I mean, the opposite of safe is fear, right? Is being scared. And so we often don't feel like we're in fear, but we might be control freaks. Well, you're a control freak because that's the only way you can feel safe. If you're in control, you're safe. When you're in the flow, you're really not in control. You're allowing the divine to guide you. You're allowing the universe to guide you. You are allowing something else to flow through you. Control is very ego-based. It's you holding on to the side of the slide instead of enjoying the ride. But the interesting thing for me was the fact that I found myself in a concrete box and that I had electricity coming out of my hands and that I was trying to use the electricity to break the box. I was trying to use electricity to break out of a concrete box. That's not going to work. Concrete is not a conductor. If it was a wooden box, maybe. A metal box, that probably would have hurt more. But concrete, it's not going to do anything. And so I was fighting to break free, and all that was doing was exhausting me. And as I'm saying this, it's like, holy shit, what a metaphor for adrenal fatigue. Because adrenal fatigue is literally you trying to do everything in your power to break free, but it's just exhausting you when all you have to do is stop and feel, surrender. But we've been taught that we shouldn't do that, right? And in my defense, I didn't have support. I was in a relationship with somebody who was not helpful to me. They were not emotionally supportive. They were not physically supportive. They were not, I literally was doing it all on my own. And I feel for people who are single parents or who are in this boat, but you have to find a way. And I found a way. So I know if I can find a way, you can find a way. Right. But this is a huge metaphor for adrenal fatigue, because I was fighting and fighting and fighting to break free, and all I had to do was surrender. I just had to stop fighting. I just stopped using my energy, AKA the electricity, to break free and reserve my energy and just be. And that would have been, and that is what healed me. It says, it's weird when you read back some of your journals, because I tend to write faster. My thoughts and information tend to come through faster than I write. So I oftentimes miss whole entire words and sentences. So I put pain is powerful. It can control the most controlled. It can bring them into the darkness as they seek to be further and further away from the pain, disconnecting you from the true power it holds. If I befriend my pain and I realize it's not bad, it's just an experience, then I can set my pain free. Again, what I said a few minutes ago, you just be? Can you just be with it? Can you just be detached and be in acceptance of it, meaning it is what it is? If you're in pain, whether it be, again, mental, emotional, or physical, you're in pain. You can't change what is. And you can't receive what's next until you accept what is. So you have to accept it. And acceptance is not agreement. You don't have to like it. You just have to be like, well, I'm in pain and there's nothing I can do about it. So I'm going to stop fighting it. I'm going to stop fighting with it. I'm going to stop wishing I wasn't in pain and just be like, well, this is what it is. I just have to love myself through it. What can I do to take care of myself, to nurture myself, to make myself the most comfortable in my discomfort? What can I do? I have to be willing to feel both pain and pleasure. That's a huge one. If you're not willing to experience pain and you don't allow yourself to experience pain, you're oftentimes not going to allow yourself to experience pleasure, because they're extremes of each other. And there's also the other part of that coin, which is some people only feel like they're worthy of pain and are afraid to experience pleasure, because maybe there was times in their life where they did experience pleasure or they did experience happiness and it was taken away. Or you ever have that feeling like something good happened, so you're like, oh shit, something good happened, the other shoe is going to drop. And so I might as well just not be happy, or I might as well not have a good experience, because it's a bad experience or a painful experience is immediately going to follow. It's not going to stay. But the whole point of that heartbeat, the roller coaster, the wave, all of these examples, is that we're not meant to stay in one extreme or one frequency. We're meant to flow and ebb up and down, like our heartbeat, like the ocean waves. We're meant to ride the wave, to let go and experience that flow, how it goes up and down. And the more we can do that, the more we can see that it won't be so extreme. There won't be the highs of highs and the lows of lows. It will be a more balanced thing. But again, that's quite boring to a lot of people. Shit, it was for me. I was like, this is boring. At least when there was chaos and pain and drama and trauma, there was depth. There was these highs and these lows, and they were extreme, and I felt. So yes, we get addicted. And when you don't, and when you start, this is how you know you're healing, when you're fucking bored. You're like, oh, it's not really boredom, by the way, it's peace. But most people mistake it for boredom. So what do? They call in more trauma or drama. I watched myself do it. And I'm really good at that. I will know. I'm really good at observing myself. And so I will know, it's like knowing, in fact, this is a perfect example. Before I ended my marriage with my husband, we decided to try therapy. And when I think it was the day of the therapy session, I found out who I had the therapist's name, but I don't think I put two and two together. But when I saw where we were going, the location, I realized that we were going to the same therapist that I had a therapy session with my dad, but right before he died. And I remember thinking to myself, it's like, I know the only example I could think of was like, this is like knowing you're going to get into a car accident, but getting in the car anyway. I knew it was going to be a train wreck. I knew it was going to be a massive, major emotional wreck for me. And I knew it wasn't going to be good for my husband either, because this therapist had spoken to me prior with my dad. He knew the trauma that I was in, and he was easily going to be able to see what my husband, that my husband wasn't there for me, the neglect that my husband was providing, doing whatever. I don't even know the right word for that. But I knew I had to go. I knew I had to do it. I knew I had to get in the car and go, even though I knew it was going to wreck me. And it did. I mean, it literally did. There was so much trauma that got brought up from that day. And we never went back, and he never did his homework, and we ended up getting divorced anyway. But I knew that I had to do it. I knew that I had to do it. It seems pain has been the one we're most comfortable with, especially since it's self-inflicted. You would rather hurt yourself than be hurt by another, so you keep everyone at bay, ready to run the moment you sense the pain. Another thing that I did, I was a runner. And so the moment that I felt like someone was going to reject me or abandon me or hurt me, I would reject or abandon them first, because it was easier for me to hurt myself than it was to feel someone else hurting me. And that came from control, which is exactly what I said in the beginning of this journal entry. If I could control how and when the pain happened, it was okay, because I was in control. No, babe, no. We just have to allow ourselves to experience the pain, because pain is power. It's power. Remove the dam, I wrote. Let it all flow, the good and the bad. Allow yourself to surrender to both. That is the flow right there, the ebbs. And that's why working out has been such a game changer for me, and why I literally will almost get anxious or antsy if I can't work out, or if I'm not in a space to work out. My body's like, oh, because you get into that routine, you crave those healthy habits the same way you crave unhealthy habits. You crave sugar, you crave carbs, you crave alcohol, you crave weed, you crave whatever it is, for whatever your vice is. So you can do the same thing with healthy things, right? I crave fruit now. I crave eating healthy. I crave working out. I crave meditation. I crave nature. And those are healthy vices. I will take those any day of the week over my old ones. Trust me. And it is that statement that I made on my Instagram story is so true. It is the only pain that I'm willing to be addicted to. It's the only pain. Because that pain is something that is helping me grow and evolve. And there is so much strength, so much power in being able to be with your pain, to be with it, not to distract yourself from it, not to try to medicate it, to dull it down, to just be like, this sucks, this fucking hurts, and we're going to do it anyway. Obviously, don't hurt yourself. I'm not telling you to work out when you should not be working out. I'm not telling you to do things that are harmful to you, but you should know the difference. This is called discernment. This is called ownership, self-responsibility. For example, 2 days ago, I chose not to work out. We were having a high energy day. We were doing template. There was template tests going on. We just came off of 3 weeks of really intense frequency upgrades on the planet. And my body felt like it had been hit by a Mack truck. Every part of me wanted to work out. But when I sat with myself, I kept hearing, your body needs rest more than anything. And that in itself was painful. To lay in my bed all day, sleep on and off all day, which I don't do. I don't sleep during the day. I hardly sleep at night. So I definitely don't sleep during the day. But that was a whole nother level of pain, because I was like, I don't want to abandon my body. I don't want to abandon myself. But I wasn't, because that's what my body needed. I was listening to my body. And so I'll work out tomorrow instead. And so I'll get my 4 days in. But let's bring this back around, because the whole point of this was to just discuss the highs and lows of pain and how powerful it is to be with your pain. So whether you are sick, whether you are going through massive financial hardship, whether there's grief because you've lost a loved one and you're feeling horrible, horrific heartbreak, whether you've been rejected or abandoned, job loss, feeling alone, whatever your pain is, you're going to find your strength and your power in your ability to be with your pain, to accept it, to look at it and go, this sucks. It is what it is. This is what it's here. I'm going to get through it. Because the faster you do that, the faster you will move through it. The more you resist it, the more you not only prolong the length of time you experience your pain, but you add intensity to it. And you double, triple, or even quadruple the chances of you having dis-ease in your body, or causing an accident, or something that allows the universe to step in to get your attention and say, hey, listen, it's enough. You need to stop and face this. So don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of your pain. Befriend your pain. Love yourself through it. Pain is power when you learn how to use it. When you learn that you don't suffer when you don't resist it. We can't experience pain without suffering, but we have to be able to detach from it and not identify it with it. It doesn't mean anything. As the Marines say, and my second husband loved to say this all the time, and it used to drive me crazy, but you know what? Now I come back to this quote, probably more than most, pain is weakness leaving the body. And motherfucker, it is. It is. Pain is weakness leaving the body. Because do you know how strong you have to be to stand and sit or be with your pain? And you will trust yourself, and you will have more confidence in yourself, And you will believe more in yourself when you are able to do hard things and get to the other side of them. So stop resisting things. Just let it flow. I love you guys, and I will see you in the next episode.
Hey, thanks for listening. This episode was brought to you by JohannaBurkhardt.com, where it's time to defy the limits of your mind and step into your multidimensional mastery. Don't forget to subscribe so that you never miss an episode. See you next time.